I didn't. So we're back, and this time I'm not going to reveal my guardian. I decided to keep quiet. Then let us continue under the assumption that Hisako Mimeya-san is the real snake. If there were reasonable doubts that it would be you, as Chini pointed out, your belligerence. You were so calm all this time. What happened?
こんな状況で冷静になれる？朝起きたら腹に血で文字が書いてあるのよ。どう考えても怪奇現象でしょ。しかもそれでこうして完全に善人面してる人がいるって知ったのよ。冷静になれるわけないでしょ。この大嘘つきがこれだから若いもんは町のもんは。
What did the others think about this exchange? You're saying that the old hag's a wolf.
そうよ。さっきから言ってるでしょ。
Old hag, you better think of a good answer to this. Are you a wolf?
よしつぐ、このバカがもうダメじゃ。若いもんはみんな読み人じゃ。
Huh? Alright, that's enough.
耐えばそんなん言わないでよ。よし君も何煽ってるの。
She voted for me yesterday and I almost died because of it. That's just shady. You better cut it out. What's up with you, lady? Why are you shrieking and cornering an old woman like that?
あなたにはわからないわよ。あ、こんな。
Crap. Hey, people, cool off a sec. There's not much space here, but let's sit as far away from each other as you can and calm down. That's all right with you, old man? Old man looked around the circle. That was enough to bring absolute silence to the room. However, that made uncertain negative emotions stand out. They came out as throats clearing, tongues clicked and sighed, among other things. Still, the silence helped people cool off, or at least it helped me. For better or worse, I knew for certain that she was a fake. And right now, I had to act accordingly. But I didn't know what that entailed. To declare that was a fake snake, I had to declare that I was a real one. However, that meant making myself a target for the wolves. What would I do then? There would be two possible snakes. And I doubted we would be hanged right then and there. They probably had to investigate someone and see who was telling the truth. But I would probably be killed during that process. Oh, the Yomi team was using Mimiya-san as bait to draw out the real snake. That was the most likely scenario. However, this felt kinda unnatural though. Why did Mimiya-san claim that role? She was an outsider who had no for the out stories or loyalty for the village. Drawing attention to herself, that was a dangerous move. It was even worse for her since she came out as a snake before anyone else died. Meaning there was no absolute chance the real snake was out of the game. Then, perhaps it meant that at the 30 minutes, Konzo resumed the feast. Konzo, before we vote, there would be something I'd like to hear. Said that he would have some information for us. So he remembered. However, I decided not to reveal that I was the snake this time. It might have helped the humans, but I felt I had to keep it hidden to ensure my own survival. Thus, I had to think of some nonsense. We were given a lot of time, though, so I had already had more than enough ready. First of all, I still don't have enough information to prove my innocence, unfortunately. That means I am less capable of contributing than Mimiya-san, and I would like to make up for that. Can I assume that means you don't have a guardian? Seems like the obvious assumption. I have no special powers. With those words, I also a liar. However, if you let me live, I will do what I can to help you all. Unlike the first time, Konzo seemed kinda interested in what I had to say. Of course, he probably threw me out in the moment he felt I overstepped myself. I can prove you with tragic advice like, don't hang Tay or Mimiya-san. Huh? If Tay-san was a wolf, I doubt she's the brain behind their actions.
だから私は違う言うて
It's a what if now. If Mimiya-san isn't the
ヘ
snake,
ビに決まってるでしょ他に誰も出なかったんだから
now I'd like to ask something. To actively survive this game, sorry, I mean the feast, the wolves have to pretend they have guardians, right? Yes. The wolves generally stay passive and lay low to avoid raising suspicion, but they eventually tip themselves off to the snake. Once suspicions are raised, simply claiming to be human is no longer good enough. Declaring yourself to have a guardian at the moment would seem like a lie, too, which is why doing it at a random time is far more effective. If you claim to have a guardian first, then anyone that came after would seem like a liar.
何を根拠に
I'm being objective. That's why it's not certain that you are the snake. If you really are a fake, it means the other two wolves have already cut you off.
待って勝手に話を進めないでどういうことなのよいきなり
While you're making a mess of the feast in the front lines, the other wolves are doing work on their own. It probably wouldn't have been your idea in that case, and they're using your distraction to avoid drawing suspicion to themselves. That's why if we can ignore you as you make a mess of things, it means you wouldn't be as dangerous as the wolves still hiding.
そんなことくだらない私は本物のヘビ
なんだ
Hey,
お姉ちゃんが狼で決まりじゃん
huh? You notice something, Mochi?
いやだって今のやっすんの話への反応さ多分お姉ちゃん自分の立場に気づいてなかったから食いついたんでしょ今自分が狼じゃないならそもそも聞かなくたっていい話だしな
この状況で適当に聞き流していい話なんてあるわけないでしょ
もっちどうしたのよいきなりだってそう思ったしさでもやっすんの意見には賛成かなおね
あのねもっちあんまり適当なことばっか言ってると君も
まあ桔梗の振る舞いだしなしょうがないよね
じゃあ自分のためじゃなく人のためにもうちょっと考えてしゃべりな間宮さんがくくられることになったら今のモッチーの言葉のせいにもなるのよ
プップー怒られた
で匠兄ちゃんの誰もくくらないって方針にはつながるのタエばあちゃんも間宮さんもくくらないならさ
That'd be meaningless. If we didn't lower the numbers of suspects, it'd be a waste of a free day that the spider gave us. If hanging really is our best interest, I'll just say one thing. I believe in Bachan. I think she couldn't kill even if she became a wolf. Well, that's just wasn't true. That's why I'll protect her.
あんたはほんまに
What about you, Corey-san? You haven't said a thing this whole time. Oh well. You and Wolf Guy.
狼が来る
Forget it, old man. What do we do?
タエバーと記者は両方くくる
Huh? For a moment we were so dumbfounded that the room was filled with utter silence. But why?
狼はくくらねばならん
That's true, but one of them's human.
確実にするために昔から皆そうやってきた
He then got up, and which made him seem larger than
タエ
usual.
バー覚悟してくれわしはあんたを60年見てきたあんたが一番安水を吸い取る安水のために気張ってくれんか
His voice was as blunt as always, not changing his expression at all. He pushed an old acquaintance into what could be her own death. It didn't matter to him if the person was friend or family. He had his own line of thinking and clearly knew what it had to be done. Friend or outsider meant nothing in the face of the situation. There was no room for hesitation or mercy.
あんたと匠が骨拾ってくれるんね
うん
and his kind of madness was shared by everyone in Yasumizu. Beichan, please, I don't want to.
匠、私は狼様じゃ。その上で私がくくられても、それは神内様の天命よね。
それじゃあ植松の
はい。
今日の票を取る。
Yasunaka-kun was looking at the floor with a pale visage. Probably didn't look at all that different from him. The silence alliance he and I made was crushed by Konzo. It was a moment of defeat for us. The old man's words quickly ended the battle between reason and tradition. Was there any way for us to resist? Like yesterday, the voting began. The old wolf guy.
我が狼なんか。おお。
He acted the same way as before, but the one he pointed out wasn't me, but Tay.
いい加減なことを。
Did he even understand the situation?
記者の女に入れる。
Of course he would.
私も同じ。
間宮さんですか？
そうよ。
I'm voting for you, Journal Lady.
ええ、そうでしょうね。
The votes so far were about what you expect. Kori-san, you're next. Her position in all this was strange. She was an adult and she intended to listen to Yasunaga-kun, ask for his opinion often. I had no idea what she would vote for. I soon found out. I never could have guessed it.
室匠さんに一票を。
Naturally, that shocked everyone. Kori-san, why?
私には難しいことは分かりませんが、いざとなれば最も疑いたくない方も疑わざるを得ないと。だからそのつもりで票を投じると決めました。
So you don't think I'm a wolf, but you're voting for me to make me snap out of it.
あなたが狼じゃないって証拠はないし、私には。
What are you talking about? I don't get it. Kori-san didn't change her vote, and Takumi-san ended up actually getting one. My turn. How complicated. Next up was Kiyonosuke, who had little presence today. It's reasonable to hang both of them. I believe we are unbothering the one of claiming to be the snake. I shall vote for Moro. You too? You'd be even more mad if I voted for a lady. Also, I changed my opinion of the newcomer a bit. Yes, I have nothing more to say, though. Did you realize? Just like yesterday, I'm voting for no Sadatsu. My reason is the same as yesterday. But now I would like to state that I wish to see how Mimiya acts going forward. Wait, why did you choose Teisan as
ど
your
うしたらい
target?
いかわからなかったから名前は適当に書いたわよ。
So you picked Tei randomly. I see. That's all for
何
me.
なのよ一体。
僕はおっちゃんに一票追加。
Again? Chika Mochi?
本当はね、間宮のお姉ちゃんが狼だとやっすんがもうちょっと見たいって言うなら、僕はそれでもいいかな。
Thanks, Mochi. I'm not changing my opinion. For the old hag.
汚れもんが。
次、私か。ごめん、間宮さん。あなたに投票するわ。
なんで私はヘビなのよ。
だって、あなたそんな人じゃなかったもの。いきなり変わったもの。でも、もしかしたら、春明さんが言ってた無地なかもしれない。
Her words caused a stir, but not a big one. They didn't seem to understand the Badger talk from yesterday. Didn't stay in their
も
minds,
し
it seemed.
そうなら、言ってほしい。無地なだって人なんだから、死ななくていいはずでしょ。
そんなんじゃない。私はヘビよ。
Chimi.
匠兄ちゃん、私別に匠兄ちゃんの味方のつもりじゃない。タイばあちゃんに投票しようか。
じいちゃん、あんたもね。
What? Why?
だってこんなのどっちも味方できないよ。タイばあちゃんが好きだからって、それだけを理由にして間宮さんを殺す。そんなの匠兄ちゃんらしくないよ。私はただ匠兄ちゃんも一緒に悩んでくれるって勝手でごめん。 ばあちゃん、間宮さんも恨まれても仕方ないって思ってる。
Next, who you're gonna pick, Haru?
じゃあ
Why am I always put in danger because of the childish whims? He sure had an unfortunate role this time.
次植松さんだけど。
山脇様に投票いたします。
植松様。
蛇の加護者を名乗ら申し訳ありません。もし間宮様の加護が本物でなかったら。
ええですよ。わかりました。
メイコ、どうする？
おばあちゃん、
Even the brat hates you.
皿長の子に嫌われてようが。
春明様は？
What was I supposed to do? Well, had three, and it was Mimiya-san's right after mine. She'd definitely vote for Tay, meaning that she would effectively had 5 votes. So I voted for Mimiya-san. I would bring it into a final vote. If I voted for Tay, definitely be hanged. Those were my only options here. Would a vote condemning someone's death really be meaningful? A vote for it was bound to be pointless. I couldn't use it as a message of any kind, and it wouldn't be a good way to repay him. I voted for the guy over there, though. I want to vote for Takumi. Takumi, F him. I'm voting for Takumi-san. Nobody seemed to be expecting my declaration. The room was filled with commotion, and I could hear some of them whisper. It was mostly along the lines of, "What is he thinking? I guess we know we're hanging." That was a strange and heavy-handed way to go about this. However, I felt like it could lead me to gaining Takumi-san's favor. I had my doubts, though. It was a serious gamble. However, I also had the feeling that if I chose anything else, I wouldn't survive the night. What's this about? I had to carefully phrase my response here. Settling on what words I could, I said, "I want to protect you." He did show some confusion, but the more pronounced emotions by far was anger. Pure rage. After all, by not voting for Mimiya-san, I had just condemned Tei-san to death. "You're doing the same thing as Kori-san and Chimi." That's all I had to say. The hell? I couldn't say too much. My goals here was actually just to make him feel like something was up. That was why I had to end this feast with words. Well, I probably had to prepare for a punch or two. It was an awkward moment, but I stayed
私
silent.
の番ね。分かってるでしょうけど、山脇さん。
決まった。
With those words, everyone stood up like it was rehearsed. Hisako and I were a bit behind them in that regard. Then I saw the villagers' faces seemed more difficult than before.
縄を。
はい。
匠、タエバーに。
Ba-chan,
あんたはちいちゃい頃から思うことはてこでもまげんこで、でもそれでも大きゅう育ってよしこさんも誇らしかろうね。
I always thought of you as my real grandma. You were like real family to me.
泣きなさんな。親内様のところでま
The
た
old lady
会えるわよ。
Drank her sake. Then the rope was placed over her
縛りま
shoulders.
す。
しっかりね。
Rikako twined the rope around her twice and tied. It was simple but necessary. The process continued. The dimly lit hall was filled with dark emotions. Gloom was heard in every sob and whimper moment. I felt I was watching a family grieve for an elderly dying in a peaceful death. They're insane. I shared this sentiment wholeheartedly. Shinai's guardians are... We passed through the mist and walked towards the graveyard. 1 snake, 2 monkey, 3 crow, 4 spider. Everyone singing prayer to Shinai. Shinai's guardians are... I couldn't tell who had started it, but when they did, so a death of the damn Yimbedo is the mandate. Sobbing mixed with singing made it seem like an old funeral, but it was actually an execution. Painfully slowly, we walked through the path leading to the cliff. Sasaganaga, I was already used to this thanks to all the cleanups. 7. The corruption. Before I knew it, even Mimia and I had joined singing, creating a perfect unity in the group. Eventually, we reached our destination. It was downhill beyond the trees. Strangely enough, the old pine tree at the end could easily be seen despite the mist. As we stopped, so did the song in
最後
emotion.
に何ぞあるか。耐えば。
No birds could be heard. The wind was still silent, perfectly silent, surrounded as Konzo did the job.
私はよみがえりなんぞせんつもりじゃがね。向こうがどんなところかわからんからね。正直恐ろしいが、これも安水のためじゃ。あんたは許さんぞ、女。
Her voice was crystal clear and now bore an unspeakable hatred. Mimiya-san remained silent, and everyone, aware of what was about to happen, prepared for the final feat.
私たちの信仰の中心はある意味ここ首吊り松の墓所。
I knew this was an important place for them, but I didn't know anything else. However, I did feel like they were acting like absolute precision, like they were rehearsed actors in a stage play. 2 of them coiled a rope around the pine large trunk, leaning out towards the cliff. Hanzo took it in one hand, looped it over.
落ちなかれ。
Rise not.
落ちなかれ。
It was the first time I had heard those words. They were probably a final goodbye, a signal. With that, the old lady's small frame went over the cliff. A second later, the rope went taut. At the same time, an inhuman sound came from the mist. After a long silence, Shinai Guardians are 1, 2. The song was sung over, and it's obvious it started this time. After repeating the song a dozen times or so, Konzo walked up to the pine and cut the rope with a sickle. Was that the sound of her falling? If there was, I couldn't hear it. Not saying a word, we all returned to the plaza. Everyone seemed to feel like we'd done something that could not be undone. No, that probably wasn't right. The point of no return was past a long time ago. This just made us realize, even then, I didn't know if anyone besides Mimiya-san. I felt it. The others might have begun feeling like this was a very important village. I thought about that long and hard. It made me feel something like remorse or powerlessness. The locals, however, seemed to feel indifferent. They did not look like they were in the state of emotion, numbness, but it seemed to be a result of something. Then, shock, or a sense of loss. It was something more unnatural. They seemed to like empty husks. I had a thought once. The real problem wasn't the monster, but the state of being. We returned to the dining hall.
オリベの
はい、
飯作れ。
承知。
皆、食堂におれ。
You stay too. There ain't nothing dangerous in the mist besides us anyways.
飯時には戻る。
I'm going back home.
匠、
I won't die, geese. I've walked that path thousands of times. If anything kills me, it'd be a bullet from your gun. If that as his parting shot, Takumi-san
他の者はおれよ。
and so Kanzu-san left too. I had no intentions of playing along. He planned to resolve the feast with his own 2 hands at the very end. He was even capable of convincing Tei-san to accept death. As long as he was alive, he would continue to command the human, strong but a heartless leader. However, I felt like I've seen his tough face, the cage, crack only a little, just now, probably for the first time ever. Though Takumi-san was considered the local young leader figure, Konzo seemed to constantly underestimate him, thinking him too soft. The softness, in this case, was simply common sense and consideration, useful things in any other situation. Looking at it from the angle, that supposed softness now seemed absent. Taesan's death had changed something in Takumi-san, and it wasn't yet clear if it was for the better. Overcome by awkwardness, we barely talked, simply watching the time go by. I had brief chats with Cory. I helped her prepare for the food. No meat.
ここには精進の風習はないわ。普通にしましょう。
It felt weird. I knew full well we had done something inexcusable. Despite that, I wasn't feeling the normal amount of shock and guilt. Perhaps because the moment Taesan died was neatly conned off from everyday life. The song, that farewell, all of it, might have been ways of separating the event from their daily lives. Seems like they know how they had to slightly lower the emotional burden. Did they think it up naturally? Or did they remember it?
ええ、ただいま。
Soon enough, we gave out the now familiar veggie and shishir soup. Oddly enough, everyone still had their appetite. However, since hadn't returned, we ended up eating with one person unaccounted for. Not just him, but there was one more empty seat that had been occupied this morning. What was this?
ハッサンさ、
Felt like it had been so long since someone called me out to me. The others likely felt the same, which was probably the way it attracted
タエ
attention.
バーがいなくなっちゃったじゃん。
Teiba's gone. What was he getting at? Was he trying to get me to talk about it? Yeah, unfortunate.
残念？ハッサン的にはタエバーを守ろうと思えば守れたよね。
もっちやめなって。
Stop it,
春明
Mochi.
さんからはタイばあちゃんも間宮さんもどっちが怪しいかは判断つかないんだから。
Yeah, that's why I didn't want to vote for either of them. The people who voted for before me were the ones who voted left me, without any other
私た
options.
ちを除くよ。いいじゃん。いい票の入れ先として役に立ってるし、みんな今はそこまで疑ってないと思うよ。
You're saying that as if you do.
うん。記者のお姉ちゃんとおっちゃん、あとはハッサンあたりが狼じゃないかな。
I wasn't the only one who jumped. Everyone looked at Mochi and I. Oh man, I know I messed up a bit here and there, but I didn't think even you didn't trust me.
あー、ごめん。別に僕は信用とかそういうのはどうでもいいの。夜更かしも殺しもやりたい放題。いいなぁ、羨ましいなぁ。
Mochi, leave it at that. We don't have proof that Mimiya-san is a fake. Yasunaka-kun stopped him because he noticed how strained Mimiya-san's expression was. However, he said that while looking at Konso-san, making it very clear who was in charge here.
近持ち来い
やだ。
来い
Mochi tried to ignore him, but the pressure got to him. He slowly got up and walked over to Konso. The old man just slapped the cross-dressing boy. His light body collapsed on the table. The on
大丈夫か
で、じっちゃんの方が大丈夫かい？骨と。
those two sure got along well.
乱暴はいかんの今さら何言いやがる猛録じじい宴のことは宴の外ではせん皆知っとる
わかったよ。記者のお姉ちゃん、ハッサン、ごめん。
He didn't have any ill intent, did he? He was probably as ascetic as he was because he was exceptionally observant. I don't mind. I can't blame you, really. I had no idea how to help out Meiya-san. She was so tense she could burst at
間
any
宮
moment.
様、私は
植松の
恐れ入りますが、 一つ重要なことを。間宮様、今晩は加護によって。
そんなの
いいえ、加護は我ら人すべてのために。
あっそう。じゃあ誰を見れば？
織部安永様、いかがお思いですか？
He had a high chance of being both a candidate for the hanging and the snake's investigation, so Yasunaga-kun probably wanted him to stop being a safe retreat for votes. However, Mimi-san was a fake. I was tempted to reveal that, but I had to restrain
わ
myself.
かった。じゃあ今日は野里さんを調べるから、雲の人には。
That wouldn't do.
なんでよ。
If he decided that here, the wolves would simply go for someone else. Spider already saved one person. That alone is impressive enough to leave it to them and again.
そう。そうかもね。
Ismasu-san, is that it?
はい、
Yes.
出過ぎました、牧島。
俺はまた出てくる。
肝臓じいちゃん、ずっとここにいたら息が詰まっちゃうよ。なんとかなんない？
死ぬよりゃマシよ。
He had a point. The positions and roles were completely different from last time. I felt like people would die if we split up.
匠には気をつけ。
He uttered those curt words and walked
そう
out.
だね。匠兄ちゃん、ばあちゃんがいなく。
To the big guys of Sophie. Now, Susan, come here. What do you want? We'll be upstairs, Mom.
待ちなさい、私も行くから。うさいしさん、任せていい？
Of course. The Robies went upstairs, leaving the dining hall with just two of the students, Kiyonosuke Shi, the old wolf guy, Chimi, and Rikako, Meiko, and Mimiya-san. Myself included, that was 9 people, a few numbers away from the total.
しんどい。
同感です。
いつまでこんなの続くんだろう。
The mood softened up, and everyone finally began speaking their mind.
ハッサンさ、狼？
No.
じゃあカゴ車？
Who knows? Wait, we're not supposed to talk about it, right?
そんなんお年寄りの言ってることじゃん。実際は丸一日これしててもいいくらい。
もっち、なんかわかんない。
Is he good at deduction or something?
どうしよう、もっち。話しかけられた。
いい加減慣れなよ。噛みつかないよ。
Go on.
大した話じゃないですけど、もっち、勘がよく当たるから。
残念。僕のクレイジー脳みそコンピューター。
というか、昨日あんなこと言ったのに、大したこと言いませんでしたよね。私、あなたのこと。
Okay, I won't blame you for that, but could you at least be more friendly with me? It feels like there's a wall of ice between us.
あなた、ナンパ男っぽいもん。
So that was the real reason, huh? This reminded me that the first time we met, she assumed I was Chimi's boyfriend. Was that even possible for her to have a better opinion of me? Getting along with her wouldn't hurt. I'll clear up that misunderstanding later. Honestly, though, I wanted to say more.
嘘だ。兄ちゃんにばっか喋らせてさ。おじいちゃん。
どうでしょうか。あの時、織部安永様は春明様をかばうようにされていたように思いますが。
She was treading into some dangerous territory with that.
そうなんだよね。ヤッスンはなぜかハッサンをやたらと信用してるよね。
理屈っぽいところは似てると思うよ、ヤスくんと春明さん。ここじゃ珍しいタイプだし、話せて嬉しいんじゃない？
春明様、議論が盛り上がる相手の方が話していて嬉しいですか？
As long as we can talk is good. I don't really
口
care.
下手な女はお嫌いですか？
Don't worry, I'm sure I can encourage you to use your mouth.
引き出されてしまう。
春明さんって絶対女のトラブルで逃げてきたんでしょ。
Whatever you mean.
リカ子さん、多分この人すっごく悪い男だから深入りはやばいですよ。
悪い方。
このスーパー悪女ちえみガールにここは任せて早く逃げて。
悪い方に憧れたりはしませんか？
そうきたか。
もっち、あれが大人の女の戦い？大人の女の戦いと言ったら、やっぱおっぱいビンタ大会じゃないかな。
Now you got my attention.
って脱線してないかしら。まあこの状況でちょっとくらい緊張を緩めたい気持ちはわかるけど。
別にまあいいんですけど、何言われても不妻子さん怪しいし。
Honestly, being seen that way made things easier for me. Yasunaga-kun was probably relatively certain that I had a guardian. He might have realized that I was planning on revealing it today and presenting them with the information I got. Then I changed my plans after seeing what happened today. That probably made him even more certain about what I was. However, my actions only made sense if you assume I had a guardian. Otherwise, I was a scared fool saying I could to survive. That's why Yasunaga-kun took charge of this conversation before I said something important, drawing attention in Kanzo aired to himself. Because of that, Haru and Chimi still thought I was irrelevant, which meant that Yasunaga-kun's plan worked. I could only hope that we didn't have any more mochis around here. I didn't want anyone else putting me under a magnifying glass like he did. Rikako-san was only evaluating me because she said yesterday she believed that I was brought here to save them. It could have been some other feeling she had for me, but whatever the case, she stood up to any negative remarks about me. In a way, the situation was well balanced.
じっちゃんはさ、狼とかカゴ車とかじゃないのかい？そっか。
それ意思疎通できてるの？
全然。だからじっちゃんは面白いのだ。
俺も面白い。
今日はなんか結構喋るな、じっちゃん。スケベな話してよ。
スケベスケベ
スケベー。そういうことじゃないでしょ。
Where'd that come
っていう
from?
かやめてよ、下品なのは。
そんなこと言って興味あるくせに。知恵姉がアーバンな実録をエッチ話聞かせてあげようか？
その
お詳しく。
釣れた。案の定ドスケベリカ子さんが釣れた。
何なのです、この牧島春様との。
いやー、神秘的な美人も生身の女だと知ってちえみさん嬉しいんですよ。ま、そっちじゃ負けませんけどね。
勝負。
おお、なんか来た。
不潔だわ、大人って。
スケベ
This is a living hell.
嫌なら野里屋敷に戻れば？
I'm not leaving this place at this time.
おっちゃんに撃たれるから？
Omoro? You think Takumi-san will go out of control over the shock from losing Tae-san? It's a definite possibility. I've known him for a long time, but I've never seen him look as cornered as he did today. Old man also said to watch out for him, didn't he? So that was what he meant, huh? It seemed possible. It was still daytime, but he wasn't here. What was he up to? How would this affect the negotiation I was planning? Maybe I was close to my limit. Maybe I should go check on Moro.
一人で出るの危ないって。本当に肝臓おじいちゃんに撃たれちゃう。
おそらく牧島勘三様が気を。
おじいちゃんはそんな気遣いしないよ。 はるちゃんいつもそう言うね。はるちゃんのじっちゃんははるちゃんをすっごく愛してると思うけどな。
どこがよ。宴が始まるまで半年くらいろくに会話もなかったのに。
うん。肝臓じいちゃん寡黙だからな。
That intrigued me too, but I had to focus my attention on Takumi-san. However, if I went and did something about that, I'd probably attract the attention of the wolves. That was difficult. What was I supposed to
と
do
ころ
here?
でやっすんたち遅いね。ちょっと盗み聞きしてくる。
ちょっとやめん。
だってあの3人が狼だったらさ、密談とかしてたらやばいだろう。
Haru-chan was shocked for a moment, but she didn't have to be.
安永君は猿なんだからそんなことはないでしょ。
Exactly. If Yasunaga-kun, Robi, turned out to be a fake, that'd mean that the old man was a fake. The old man, Mishina, was a fake as well. That'd be awful.
そっか。
All three of them simply couldn't have been the wolves, so there was no problem with their secret chat. However, eavesdropping isn't good. Neither is meeting in secret. Such things draw suspicion like they did just now.
もっち、はるちゃん、呼んどいで。
一人でよくない？
いいわよ別に。行きましょう。
Yeah, this wasn't a role that could be left for a single person. The secret chats would increase the likelihood of conspiracies and hidden pacts, perhaps resulting in lawless murder. However, at the same time, there was a risk that someone, especially the wolves, could find out such pacts. The wolves left their house at night to kill people. We, humans, could only have secret talks during the day, where we risked being heard by others. Overall, the wolves had a way bigger advantage on the intelligence front. By just meeting up at night, they could have any chats during the day. In fact, they could just focus on listening. They could also agree on what roles they would take, which ones would pretend to have guardians, which ones would side with the humans, which would gather information. By eavesdropping on the humans' secret chats, they could gather info without the humans even realizing someone was listening. That's why people couldn't be allowed to go off to listen to those chats on their own. Would imply their alternative motives. Chimi had realized that just now, huh? Did that mean that she suspected Mochi, though?
匠兄がヘビだって言った時、嫌な感じがしたんだ。ああ、今、狼様が笑ったなーって。
He certainly had sharp intuition. This reminded me that he just asked me a leading question whether I was a wolf or a guardian. Did he perhaps realize whether he was a human or a wolf? He might have known that I had a guardian. Had Chimi stopped him from going off on his own because she saw him as dangerous? Perhaps I had to use my snake powers to investigate him. This was complicated. Upon returning to Orobi's, they didn't have anything to say. They just returned their seats, and that was that. It seemed they came down at the same time as the two students went to pick them up. This was the first time I'd seen him so serious. It made him look a lot like his brother. Large eyes at a straight gaze. They probably inherited those features from late. I couldn't help but wonder what they talked about. Wanted to scold, while Cory-san probably was concerned about how they were holding up. I did think it was important to have a strong will in this situation. An outburst of violence would quickly be silenced and couldn't afford to lose potential votes to that. The feast was built around the premise of killing people through logical deduction and letting that foundation well and not an option. Otherwise, we'd be quickly overrun by madness, blind murderous rampage. Only ones who benefit from that would be the wolves, who had the upper hand in
息が詰
information.
まりそうだから何かお出ししましょうね。甘いものでも。
She presented us with something. I had no idea what it was. What's this? Inko? Nope. My bowl had something gray, paste-like in it. It was steaming
あ、
too.
タッコだ。懐かしい。
Everyone was overjoyed and began digging into the paste with their own chopsticks. I had no reason to do. It looked like enko, but was soft. I brought my paste closer, and it was actually a good smell. The steam made it obvious, but it was pretty hot. Sweet too. It reminded me of barley rice. It just happened to be sweet.
はったい粉だわ。大麦の粉をいって。
Is that what it's called outside?
ええ。まあ、地方によっていろいろ呼び名はあるけどね。戦前までは。
ええ。ここは昔から麦を作って粉にし教わったのよ。昔。
No one commented on her correcting herself.
タッコという呼び方は聞いたことがないわね。はったい粉がなまったのかしら。
Even in this situation, Mimiya-san was acting professionally. Though everyone lightened up and made room for idle talk, no one brought about anything about the feast. No one was in the mood for it either. However, I was sure about everyone here had the same thought. She was a bad liar. From what it seemed, during the previous loop, her was the same way. However, since she was no one even noticed if she was a bit unnatural. Mimiya-san, however, was clearly the cool and intelligent type, so the sudden change of behavior immediately stood out. It didn't seem like it had anything to do with the burden she had Snake or the nightly attacks. If she had nothing to hide, she would calmly defend her actions and do something important to help her survive the night. She was lying. Everyone thought that, not just me. I wasn't able to get them to accept the badger's existence as fact, so they all should have assumed she was a wolf. On top of that, I was thinking about what she'd do. Enjoying the sweetness, I continued to think to myself. Time passed. We weren't too hungry, but we had dinner. Our school at 5 p.m., then split up. And this is where I will be ending this video today. See you guys in the next one.